It's something close to all of our hearts, and I think for women going through a certain age in life, it is something that affects us. So, if you'd like to come to the first floor and join us, and please give a warm welcome to Ashley Connolly.
So good afternoon, everybody. Hi. Welcome to my talk today, and thank you Liv, so much for asking me to speak to you today. And congratulations on an amazing event. Particularly supporting breast cancer, Ireland, which is what it's all about. And I'm going to share with you a little story, very inspirational story, a very empowering story, of the importance of weight and how it can affect cancer and cause cancers. But a lovely story of a lady called Laura, who came into us, lost 4 stone, and because she lost the weight, she was then able to discover that she had lung. So that's what it's all about. She said, she hadn't had lost that weight, she should be a different story. She's very healthy today, doing really well, and through the program she has gained confidence, because when she came in first she had very low self-esteem, very low self-confidence, and a dream of hers was actually to open her own business, which she actually did in the end. And she was one of these mothers that, for any of you here who are mums, I'm sure you'll relate to what I call mum guilt. We all do it. So a lot of the women coming into our clinic, a lot of them will be mothers, women my own age. And talk a little bit about menopause as well to get me started. But we work on guilt. So, just to tell you a little bit about motivation, and how it works. So we're actually celebrating ourselves, this month actually. We're 30 years in business. It is a family business. Our beautiful daughters are involved, my husband Paul. We have an amazing team who work with us. And motivation, I always say, it's not motivation weighing loss. It's motivation weighing management. There's such a big difference. So I don't know how many of you in the audience have tried to lose weight before. I know everyone who comes into us, they've probably tried everything and lost weight, but either will plateau or they will put the weight back on again. So what we specialize in is actually using weight, but more importantly, keeping the weight off. And the way that we do that is to identify not just what we're eating, but why we're eating. So a lot of it is emotional. And emotions, the emotional eating, believe it or not, goes back to childhood. From we're very, very young, because every time that you cried, what did your mum do when you were a baby? You got a bottle, or a cinder or something. So believe it or not, subconsciously, our brain has stored that message. So if we're feeling negative in any way, then the automatic response is to actually put something in your mouth. So that can be smoking, eating, drinking. It's usually something oral. So we work on that with our clients and with our patients in the clinic also. So it's not just about food and scale and diet. If diets alone worked, we wouldn't have the obesity crisis that we have today. It is about emotions. And the emotional journey for women, we know, is tough. Starting from adolescence, then we have right through to pregnancy, being a mother, menopause. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those things. So with adolescents, I'm delighted that we have more and more adolescents coming into the clinic now, and they will do the program in conjunction with the parents. We're looking at things, helping them with low self-esteem, with confidence and body image, a huge thing. We all know nowadays adolescents, they're influenced by social media, etc. So that's an important part that we play with them. And shaping their self-confidence, because I believe young girls, when they learn about healthy eating at the very beginning, it's going to shape them for the rest of their lives. And looking, as I say, not just what you're eating, but why you're eating. So the earlier they learn in life, the better. So we start with adolescence, and then stage 2, we have fertility and motherhood. An interesting fact, 1 in 6 couples actually face fertility struggles. And the excess weight can actually interrupt or disrupt ovulation in women, and it also lowers testosterone in men. Encouraging news, however, is recent research shows that even 5% reduction, that's all, 5% reduction in body weight can boost fertility up to 69%. That's amazing. So that's a lovely message and sends a message of hope. So of course that comes the baby I've talked about in motherhood. So we have more and more moms coming in, and I talk about the guilt mom. I had a lady just the other day who said she wasn't sure about signing up. She spent all her money on her children. And all that guilt that we talk about, I always say, if you look after yourself first, then you're more able to look after the family and look after other people. I don't feel guilty about it. I had another little lady actually who was working on her guilt issue. And again, we're talking about emotions. So she was feeling guilty. The first thing she would do is she'd turn to biscuits or she'd turn to chocolate or whatever. She's feeling bad. She, through working on her guilt, changed her Sundays. So initially, she would always have all the family over to her house, and the kids and the whole lot would stress herself out, cooking dinner, was left cleaning up when they went home. And she said to me actually only the other day how motivation has changed her life, because she's not suffering from that guilt anymore. She now goes to their house, which I thought was very clever actually. So she said, why am I doing all this? I'm going to actually go over to them. So that's a true story, a lovely story. But she said it's changed her life because she doesn't have this guilt anymore. Or guilt on me slip. We all know I slip. I say to everybody, we're only human. So a slip, we actually love at the clinics when people slip because we can find out why. So we find out, we look at the difference between physiological hunger and psychological hunger. So physical hunger and emotional hunger. So the program is CBT based. And I don't know how many of you are aware of CBT or cognitive behavior therapy. If we have a negative thought, that will cause a negative emotion, and that will result in a negative behavior, i.e. comfort eating. Now, the interesting thing is we can't always change situations. Sometimes we can. Our emotions are automatic. And it's okay to feel angry or annoyed in girls or whatever the emotion is. That's okay. You can't change your emotions. But what can you change? Your thoughts. And it's the thought that's actually causing the emotion. It's not the situation. So even if people are in a situation that come in and say, if we listen very closely, it's all one-to-one, we're always listening. If we hear people saying phrases like, I can't, it's going to be hard. Even weight loss. People are, what have I lost on the scale today? And we're always saying, this is not what you're losing. Focus on what you're gaining, because losing and diets, they're negative words anyway. So it's focusing on what you're gaining compliments, you're gaining better health, you're gaining all those things. So the other stage then, let's talk about it, menopause. And I was talking with Viv earlier, and we were just saying how back, I remember when I started, I was only 35 actually, and I remember going to my doctor and saying, and thanks to Oprah Winfrey at the time, she was discussing perimenopause. And I remember saying to the doctor at the time, I think I might be perimenopausal, but the doctor said you're too young. So that was, I'm not now, you're heading for 60. But they didn't have the education that they have now. So as if it's not bad enough to have, for those of you who can relate to it, to have hot flushes, anxiety, the forgetfulness, hence my notes. One goes with that, I hate to tell you, but you can expect to gain 12 to 15 pounds during menopause. And that's not even with all the emotions that go with it. And it usually is around the tummy area. We talk a lot in our clinics about visceral fat. And I don't know if any of you have heard visceral fat, the term visceral fat, but this is the one that is dangerous fat. This is internal fat that we carry around the organs and can cause breast cancer, as said the story earlier on. So we actually will do body fats, and for anybody interested, we do have a stand downstairs with a body fat machine. So if any of you want to have a look and look at your visceral fat, it's very helpful. And yes, you can absolutely lose weight during menopause. It is possible. Our team in the clinics are probably all around my own age, especially the lifers, and all have been through menopause. So, you just have to look at them and they tell the story. Also just in the note of menopause, I recently did a podcast with Salia Brady from the Irish Menopause, and oh my lord, her information was amazing. It was so helpful. So I would advise you to go on. We have an app, a motivation app. If you want to just go on the App Store, you can sign it to the app, and you'll hear all the podcasts and guest speakers or client stories, which are very helpful as well. So the other thing I just wanted to talk to you about was weight loss injections, and I think it was mentioned from our previous speaker. I'm very passionate about this. I'm finding we're using them a year now in the clinics. I'm finding they are very, very helpful for any clients or patients who are finding it hard to start a program. You just need that little kickstart. But I'm also finding them very helpful for any patients who plateau. I'm sure you all know that little plateau. We've all been there. And it's usually what happens is you might have 7 pounds to lose, 10 pounds left to lose. And what happens is when you get comfortable and you're comfortable in your toes, the mind gets comfortable. So that's where we kick in with the motivational techniques and tools. But it's important, so important that they're used in conjunction with a behavior program, because more and more research is showing now they're not the answer long term. I had a lady in the other day, she had a slip, she's on the injection, and I said, why? What was the slip all about? Do you think, was it physical hunger, emotional hunger, what was going on? And she said emotional. And straight away I found myself saying, so the injection does not help you with your emotions. It'll curb your appetite. It'll help you in all those areas. But the other thing that I'm finding and very concerned about is, if anyone on weight loss injections, make sure that you are still eating enough. So that is important. I'm hearing over and over. And then we've all heard the term Ozempic face. You don't want to lose muscle tissue. That's so important. So again, on the body fat machine that we use, we're able to see if anyone is losing muscle tissue, and we can flag it straight away. But it's only used in conjunction with behavior modification, because you don't want to be on injections for the rest of your life anyway. And the costs come in the whole lot. But certainly they can be helpful. So, as I said, we're 30 years, celebrating 30 years this month. And as a little birthday present, we are actually offering 30% of our motivation programs for 30 hours only. 30. So if you're not interested in losing weight yourself, you don't need to. I'm sure we all know somebody who is. And I think the story that I started with initially really says it all. And I think of the phrase, 2 phrases actually coming into my head. First of all, my mum, Lord rest her, saying, it's a man's world. So I think, based on the journey of women and what we have to go through, that definitely is true. But the other thing is, as I say, not just lose weight, keep the weight off. So the girls are downstairs if anybody would like to talk to them, or if you have any questions or whatever. I trust you, they're not going to try and make you do anything that you don't want to do. They're a lovely, lovely team, I have to say, in all our clinics. They're fabulous. So, thank you for having me, Viv, again, and congratulations on a super event. And enjoy your day. I hope everyone got loads of bargains.
Well, there's nothing so great. Are there any questions for Aileen? Because I have to say, I'm sitting here and I'm going, you've just triggered loads of different things in my head. Like, and I've just said to you, everything you're saying is so true. It is about comfort eating this time. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah. And then as we go on, and it is something people just turn to food. I think you have a lot more information in you about how this whole weight management journey goes and where it can go, and changing the mindset to actually just go, it's not all about just putting another.
That's a good point you said, mindset. So we actually, people ask, well, how do you identify these emotions and triggers and triggers to start with? So what happens is when our patients and clients come in on their first visit or second visit consultation, they'll complete what we call a mental weight questionnaire. So this is what makes us different, and this is how we find the information. That questionnaire will identify unhealthy habits, behaviors, and attitudes. So we have the information straight away. I've had people come into me over 30 years saying, I've been to a therapist for this, I'm binging, or whatever it may be. But we're able to see that straight away, whereas it could be like weeks and months in therapy. So we're able to see, so say for example, if your trigger was stress eating, you are then directed to an audio. So we have an audio for stress, which helps change your whole association, I call it. If it's guilt, there's an audio for guilt. And sometimes it's just plain habits. You've been doing it for how long? It takes, by the way, between 4 and 21 days to change a habit. And we'd always say to people, just one habit at a time.
Yeah.
Perfectionism is a huge thing. Especially business women. I think business women, we're high achievers. We set very high goals. And if we don't achieve them, the guilt sets in. So perfectionism, we would say, is a huge thing. So one step at a time, change one habit at a time. And then you gain the confidence to change all the other habits. So that's how actually we can find out what the problem areas are. Some people might actually say it's interesting. I picked up a couple of clients or patients over the years who say food reward might come up. Right, we've all heard that term, food reward. So if you hear yourself saying, I'll have a nice meal later, or we go out for a nice meal. Now, sometimes I will say I'll go out for a nice meal, but it's not about food. It's the fact it's nice for me is that I don't have to cook. I don't have to do dishes. So, but if you're a person, a foodie, I would call it, and you're thinking, oh, go to that nice restaurant because they do the most gorgeous dessert or whatever, that's a different issue. And the reward thing, again, goes back to childhood because you're a good girl. What did your mum say if you're a good girl? My mum, I always remember, Angel Delight. Does anyone remember Angel Delight? Yeah. If I ate home my dinner, we got Angel Delight butterscotch. I can still taste it. Yeah. So that's where it comes from. Like, how long is that little association there in the brain? So if it's a reward, this lady I was going to tell you about, for example, said to me, because sometimes it takes time to have what I call the light bulb moment. You could be listening to all the audios as a case histories. You could be listening to where you're going, no, that's not me. But sometimes people have that light bulb moment months down the road when they're in a situation. So this lady, for example, was going, no, I don't reward yourself with food. And I'm going, well, do you hear yourself saying, I'll have it nice or whatever? She goes, no. And then the following week, I'll never forget, she came in and she goes, now, I said, are you using your reward audio? Are you listening to all that to help you? And she said, yeah, but still don't get it. Anyway, let me tell you about my week. So a friend of mine, golfer, we go to her house once a week after we all have the game, and she makes the most gorgeous cakes. And you want to see the gorgeous spread that she did. And I actually had to say to her, can I stop you there? Do you hear what's the words that you're using? But she didn't realize until we had that conversation. So small thoughts like that, it's amazing what we may be saying to ourselves. And I say behaviours are passed on. We've all heard the phrase, oh, my mother used to say that or whatever. So it really does start with your thoughts. And the audios will help reprogram that. So instead of negative messages, you're listening to positive, healthy messages. Emily, I'm so honoured you're asking me a question. One of my old flatmates is obsessed with this term, a skinny fat person. She believes that you could look thin, but have kind of what you mentioned, the visceral abdominal fat and a lot of weight around the stomach. But if you were to go and say to people, I think I'm overweight, they'd be, would you stop? You're not overweight. You couldn't be. But as you mentioned, the fat machine, are you seeing more people coming in that look, because they're not obese, mightn't even be aware that they're above the weight they should be for their height or age or perimenopause or things like that? Absolutely, yes. So that's the visceral fat that you're talking about. As you say, you might look overweight. People, like, as you say, you don't need to lose weight, whatever. But they don't know how I feel. It's how I feel. But the body fat machine, yeah, we're seeing a lot more of that. Because why? Because people's diets are so bad. We're not eating healthy food. I have to give a shout out to Carmen Mix down there. This is my neighbour. But she has a big family. They cook for healthy food. We're all time precious now as well. But yeah, to answer your question, I'm seeing that more and more because the diet is not changing. Now, don't get me wrong, we do. I don't even like to use the word diet. I call them eating plans. So we do healthy eating plans. And if I can give any tip today to take home, make sure that you do eat every 3 to 4 hours, especially protein. Because I know when you're busy or you could get stuck in the studio or whatever, it happens to me. Then you're hypoglycemic. So there you go. You'd actually be better having protein with that, because the reason being that protein stays in the system longer. So protein stays in the system for about 3 to 4 hours. Carbohydrates get burnt off very quickly. And the interesting thing about, I know bananas are handy, but the interesting thing about fruit is it does contain sugar. And what happens is when the body gets a taste for sugar, blood sugar levels then drop. Same as caffeine. So I get a kick, I have loads of energy, and an hour or two later you might feel a slump. But if you had the protein, you wouldn't get that as much. So you'd actually be better probably having a Baby Bell Light or, a little bit of low-fat cheese or something like that. Melon, parma ham. The Baby Bells are so handy for putting in your bag when you're on the go. Because you think you're being healthy having the banana, but it's just about...
Exactly. Yeah. So you'd always think every fruit on its own, try and have some protein with it. So you might even feel yourself, I don't know if you feel that little lift once you're like, oh, that'll keep me going now for another while. But then, the slow, your sugars will actually be lower than where you started off. So it's like a roller coaster effect.
I definitely think I'm slightly addicted to the sugar. Like even last night, we had a great night, but I went home and I ate 2 buns and a half of our chocolate, rather than making something, healthy.
Yeah. And you don't have to, this comes up all the time, Emily, you don't have to, people will say, we are time precious. You don't want to be cooking a separate dinner for yourself and then, having to do different food, and everyone, as my youngest would always say, we all have different tastes. You can still go to easy things like deli. I also have ham, meat, fish, fowl, low-fat cheese, eggs, pulses. Always have them handy. Sometimes my girls will tell you, I just open a tin of beans. I don't feel like cooking. The legumes, kidney beans, fill up with those. But when you're busy and you're on the go, now we do also have protein supplements. We have protein bars. And while I'm on that note, I'm just going to tell you briefly, be careful of protein products. I'm not going to mention any names. But some protein products, be it bars, yogurts, whatever, might say that they have a lot of protein in them, or they have a certain amount of protein, but they have hidden sugars. The marketing people are getting more and more clever at disguising. The latest name now is polyols. That's actually been around a while. I don't know if you've heard of polyols. But polyols is a type of sugar. So you might get the protein in, but there's hidden sugars in it as well. But yeah, for handiness, I'd always have sliced ham, the good deli ham, turkey, whatever. Baby Bells, my girls there were bought up from Baby Bells. We always had them in my bag, and I would have one myself, So yeah, I mean, it's.
I'm going to my Baby Bells today.
Yeah, the Baby Bells, and
Tell me in my handbag.
Yeah, in your handbag. And the other thing is, please feel free to do a body fat analysis. I very much doubt that it's going to come up that there is an issue. But as you say, if you are eating the wrong foods and healthy foods with sugar, etc., you'd be surprised. So
Yeah, well, the girls will look after you down there.
Yeah, and I think it's gradual with a lot of people I know as well. You don't just wake up one day, but it's kind of accumulative, and you don't notice it at first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Suddenly you put on that outfit or that dress, and then you're like, oh, yes, it doesn't belong or whatever. So, yeah, it's gradual.
I think I definitely want to have you back again because I know there's so much more in there. And guys, feel free to ask questions. What I love about your approach, we've all got style clubs. I've kicked out. I reckon I think they thought I was drinking too much. I think they thought it turned into an AA meeting. And it's time to told maybe it's not for you. I'm granted, yeah. Anyway, so I mean, we've all tried the style clubs. We've all gone that way, that way, that way, that way, that way, that way, that way. We all have. But it sounds in your program, it's much more about person who's in to get home. You know, it's not there's your diet sheet. I come back next week and let us know how you get on. And I'm not dissing any other groups. I'm just saying there's an awful lot more in your code program, your approach, and the way you actually involve yourself and engage with the clients. Like you really bring them on the journey and you hold their hand up the journey as opposed to just saying, there you go, come back in this. You know,
Because everybody's different, and as I say, emotions need to be handled in a certain way. Like the girls are there, and again, they're amazing. All the clinics girls are amazing. They're with us a long, long time, which I think is testimony to, that how lovely a company it is. But it makes me think, I could tell loads of stories, but I'm thinking even of a lady who came into me recently, and I'm going to ask her if she would talk for us. And she, on her second consultation, started crying. Like we always know, because we ask the right questions. And it's good to cry. Sometimes emotional eating comes from blocking the emotions. And that's a bit of perfectionism as well. So I'm the mom now, I have to be strong. I'm not going to show myself, whatever. And this lady, through the questionnaire as well, literally started crying. Like I always say to people, it's great to cry. We all know when you have to go cry, how do you feel? And I use the phrase, a weight lifted off your shoulders. Because some people would come into us and have done over the years of motivation who have never talked. Talking is so important, and having someone to listen. So they may come in, have never told people about their issue living, and then the tissues will come out. And I always say, it's good to cry. And I've had people plateau because sometimes it doesn't come up too often. There could be abuse. So sometimes somebody is protecting themselves. They could lose a certain amount of weight, and then they kind of don't want to be drawing attention or looking too attractive or whatever, and they'll plateau. And they may never have discussed that with me. I've had that happen. And then tears, and believe it or not, the following week or the week later, the graph starts to come down. And I know the girls have experienced this as well. It's amazing. Little tip about the alcohol. How are you going to do tips? We had a good night last night, I heard. But the interesting thing, alcohol is sugar, okay? And alcohol does cause hunger. We've all had that. You wake up the next morning and you've the munchies. So there is a little trick I'm going to share with everybody. For every unit of alcohol, at least try and have 3 units of water. That way, so literally if I'm having a glass of wine, I'm going to have 3 glasses of water, because that way you're flushing the alcohol out of your system. You still get the nice effect, but you're not storing the alcohol. You're flushing it out of your system. So that's just a little trick. Better off to have non-alcoholic if you want to, trying to lose weight, whatever, but you get it. That's a tip for you, the best, yeah.
But actually, listen, it's absolutely. Anybody got any other questions for Ashley? It's great. Thank you for the girls. The girls are down on the stand, and Ashley, I'm sure will be around for a while. So, I mean, Ashley, definitely this is one that we're going to have again. You're absolutely brilliant. Lovely to see you.